Yo, it's your boy, the Tesla King, Elon Musk. The boys always make my rocket shoot straight up. No homo. You bout to listen to the #1 JFK-related podcast on planet Mars. Now plug in your neural link for two numbnuts who aren't a waste of government spending. The BBB&JOEB.
Here's the BBB&JOEB, and the BBB&JOEB, rock cock and Joe rally. BBB&JOEB, and the BBB&JOEB, rock cock and Joe rally. We're coming in, only seeking the truth about JFK. It's the long coming podcast crew. Tell 'em, Joe, here we go.
And here we go, week 2.
Yep. What's up, everybody? Welcome into our independent research month of November. This is the Lone Gunman Podcast. I'm Rob Clark. That's Joe Borelli. And today we got a banger for you, folks. This man that we're about to introduce to you never disappoints. He always brings the heat. I've had him on 2 or 3 times before, and it's been way too long since we've had him on. So I thought, who better than to have asked to come back on the show and join us, Mr. Ed Ledoux. Welcome in. Mahalo, sir.
Mahalo. How's it going, Joe and Rob? How you guys?
Welcome back, my friend. Yeah, man, I can't wait to get into this. I was looking through everything that you sent over, and it was like, wow, I see the bits and pieces, but I don't know the narrative, and I can't wait to hear it. I'm just as excited as everybody watching us is. So welcome in our live viewers. What's up, everybody? I see Brandon gifted 5 memberships. So let's give him a little big thank you, Brandon.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. And we already got a house full in here, and I'm sure some more stragglers will be coming in.
Yeah, well, we'll skip the introductions. You know who you are. We love you.
But we have a guest.
Yes, exactly. And it is a pleasure to be on with you, sir. I've enjoyed your work for a lot of time and really respect it, and the way you really go deep into this. So
Humbled. Thank you, Joe.
been a fan. So yeah, I think
Let's get into it, Ed. Wherever you want to start, wherever you want to take this thing. I know there's some twists and turns and many different angles to all this, but rock and roll, my friend.
I'm ready to go. You know, it's coming up on November 22nd, right? Got the anniversary coming up. You know, I've got my Inco map, vintage 63. I can find my way around. You know, I've got my bus pass. I don't know if you can see that. I've got my annual bus pass there. If that doesn't work, I've got a full book of tickets to get on the buses. You know, if that doesn't work, and I got my books. You know, I got Prayer Man back there. So I'm all set to go for November 22nd. But in doing so, I decided to call a couple people. And one of them was Velma Ryder. And she is the youngest sister of Dial Ryder. And everybody knows Dial Ryder from the fame of supposedly mounting a scope on Lee Harvey Oswald's rifle. And that was the
scope already.
What was that?
Didn't it come already mounted with a scope?
Well, you would think so. You know, if you buy it from the magazine, you pay, you know, the money to have it mounted. You know, you'd think it would come with a scope, but
maybe
for some reason,
transit.
Yes, for some reason, maybe it broke off or something. People say, you know, he had to get it put on or something. So I called her, and it's amazing talking with her. She's 81 years old, and you couldn't tell. You know, it's amazing. It was very interesting. She was where she was on November 22nd, sticks in her mind, and this blew me away, that it was her birthday. Her birthday is November 22nd.
Wow.
And she was working at the Collins Radio Factory.
Ah,
She was 19. She had a security clearance, and she worked the line putting together not just any radios, but she worked on a lot of the stuff for the NASA space program, the radio transmitters for that, microwave transmitters. She put all this stuff together. She was, pretty well, technically skilled as an assembler, and she was eating birthday cake in the break room when the news came that Kennedy had been shot. She started to go back to work, and then they basically called everybody together and said, "Everybody go home," and that was it for the day, right? And so she went home. She started watching everything on TV, like most everybody in Dallas did. But very interesting that then, she knew quite a bit about, what had happened, because her mom and dad started to get death threats because it came out that Dial Ryder had supposedly mounted a scope onto Oswald's rifle. And, this is interesting because, the Irving police were involved. The FBI were involved. There's not a lot of reports or anything about this that you can find, but she told me, all these little secrets about what they did. And Dial was very interesting because he knew all the police. He worked on a lot of their guns, all their rifles, all their different hunting rifles, and everybody basically went hunting there in Dallas and stuff. And she told me a weird thing about one of their clients. She would go with him, and they would take the guns from the store, and Dial would go out and he would shoot them. And one of the places they would go, basically the only place she really remembered, was this place in the river bottom, in the Trinity River bottom. If you remember, there was some talk about people shooting in the river bottom, and the police investigating it and seeing, maybe that was Lee Oswald was down there shooting. And this is very interesting because they had a client that she went with Dial, and a very large rifle. And this is a few years before the assassination. Very interesting client. She couldn't remember exactly what this guy looked like or anything. She couldn't describe him to me, but it just teed off a bunch of bells in my head that this guy had this rifle that had really large caliber bullets. And Dial said, you don't want to shoot this rifle, Velma. You don't want to shoot this. And she said, yeah, I do. I don't want to shoot that one. Because basically it was, she was his brother. There was all girls, right? And Dial was the only boy, right? And so whenever she was born, Dial was so upset. He was like, I wanted a brother. I wanted to be a brother. I need a brother, So he basically turned her into his brother, took her shooting, all this kind of stuff, that boys would do. And, and she eventually, after she worked at Collins Radio, she entered the Army. So that's how much of a boy she kind of got used to being with Dial. But they had this client, and they took this big rifle down to the Trinity River bottom, and I was able to research it and find out exactly where it was, what they went, because there's FBI reports about this. And I showed it to her. She goes, "Yeah, that's the place with the little bridge that went across, and we would shoot cans off that and stuff." So she wanted to shoot that rifle, and sure enough, it was her. Dial was behind her, holding her, and then the client was standing back there behind them. And she shoots this rifle. It knocks her into Dial into the client. All three of them fell down on the ground, and they were laughing about it. But that's how powerful this gun was. And it reminded me of Harold Bird going elephant hunting, supposedly on November 22nd. He was, I'm gone. I'm in Africa. Which is weird because, I went on the AARC, which is the Assassination Archives and Research Center, and there's a thing on there by Daniel Alcorn, and it's Bird, von Alvensleben, and the Doolittle Report. And basically, he checked it out, and he goes, "There is not that picture in there, supposedly of Bird with an elephant, isn't Harold Bird. It's a different older guy. So there are no photos of Harold Bird in Africa with an elephant that he went hunting for. So here's this big, large rifle they were shooting. It makes me wonder, who was this client? You know, and there was a very interesting family. Like I said, their father was Homer Richard Ryder, and he worked as a
Yep. This is the family tree.
Yep.
that
There's
you see.
there's Homer. He's at the top. So he worked at Counts Boyd. He was a sheet metal worker putting planes together. And then there's Magdalena, Fleda, Isophenes, Marcella, Mardella, Fern, then Dial, and Velma. And Velma was the last one born in Illinois, and they all moved to Dallas. They moved when Velma was 6 months old, got in Homer's truck, and they all drove to Dallas and lived there and moved to Urban. And there's some interesting stuff about some of her sisters. One of the interesting things was Fleda. She was married to a guy named Grossi. And so a lot of people don't know who Grossi is, but he had an alias. His alias was Jack Bowen. And Jack Bowen is the guy who worked with Lee Harvey Oswald at Jagger Child Stovall, and is the guy who signed for his library card, Lee Oswald's library card. His name is right on there. And you can put that up too, Joe, if you want.
Yep. Yep. I have it coming somewhere here.
Yeah, his
There we go.
library card is right there. And that's
on
Bowen.
the right side. Yep.
Yeah, this is Fleda, Velma Ryder's and Dial Ryder's sister, married Grossi, and he's got a huge record. This guy was involved in all kinds of thefts, stuff at gunpoint, stealing things, robbery, assaults, you name it. I mean, this guy had a record going way back. And it's very interesting that there he is working at JCS with Oswald. It just blows my mind.
Right.
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 Then there's the other sister that was interesting, which is Mardella or Marty. She was a guy named Joe Harden. His great grandfather is John Wesley Harden, the notorious criminal from way back in the day, the guy who killed I don't know, 70 people or something, supposedly. And then Fleda, she was married to Grossi, aka Bowen. When she got divorced from him, she married a guy named Mantooth. There's all kinds of FBI files about Mantooth too. And what's very interesting is that Mantooth was in prison with Grossi or Bowen. And later on, Bowen or Grossi was using Mantooth's name as an alias. One of the cases was they stole a camper, and all of them went to Oklahoma and were in this camper, camping and hiding out and stuff. Very, very wild stuff. And so I sent Velma.
Yeah, I have a couple pictures of her up now with
Yes,
Dial.
and that's her. That's her whenever she was in the military, and she was in the Army. She scored very high on her ASVABs. Back then, it was on a 100-point scale, and she scored like a 94 or something. And so she got to pick wherever she wanted to do and where she wanted to go. And she said she wanted to be in, what was it? she wanted to be basically in personnel, and so she got sent to Germany, and she was in Ansbach, Germany, and because she had done all this shooting with Dial and grew up around rifles, and Dial had her shoot every kind of rifle. She said Dial would always have a rifle in his car, and I even asked, what kind of car did Dial have? And she was able to remember it was a little Ford. It was a little two-door, light-colored, maybe white Ford. And she told me that he always had rifles in there of all different kinds, just everything you can imagine, because he would take them from the store and then go shoot them. And he would take them down to the river bottom. He would take her. And she got to be such a good shot. I mean, she could shoot a can and make it dance. And so in Germany, she was elected or picked to shoot in the Harridan shoot. And this is a very famous local competition between the Germans and the Americans. And she was a Frau. She was a woman. And you know how the Germans are, and they're like, oh, we're shooting against a Frau, oh boy. And she actually shot just as good as them. As a matter of fact, she came in second or third, I forget what it was, in the Harridan shoot, which is very famous over there. A lot of people don't know about it, but it's an amazing thing. A competition. They shoot matched 22 rifles, and then it's all this target shooting. But
So
yeah, she was very good.
Did she join in like the 50s or
Mm,
like post Korea ish? Because she was older than Dial. I don't know. I'm just
she's
trying
the
to.
youngest sister. She's younger than Dial, and
She's younger. Okay, yeah.
she joined probably in the 70s, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she had worked for Collins and things like that, and then she went to the army, and she retired. So she retired in 93, and she probably put in, I think she said 25 or 27 years, so whatever that works out to be. And she was in personnel. She had security clearance. She did all that kind of stuff in Germany. But yeah, it was very interesting talking to her about this, and about Fleda and Grossi and Mantooth. She didn't like any of these guys, so she didn't really associate or want anything to do with them. She could tell these guys were bad Larrys, just bad news. Right? So
yeah, bad news bears.
yeah, very interesting. I asked her about an incident where Peggy. So Peggy is Dial's wife, right? And Peggy, her name was Peggy Jones. Okay. And I was like, did you know Peggy Jones? She was like, no, I didn't really hang out with Peggy, or know the Joneses or anything like that. But what was interesting about Peggy was where she lived and where Dial lived with her when they first got married, before Dial got a house on Harvard Street. And Dial had that house until he died. But before he got the house, he was kind of shacking up with Peggy at Peggy's parents, the Joneses. You know where the Joneses lived, right? Across the street from Lenny Mae Randall.
Wow.
It was on 5th Street, right in Irving?
5th Street in Irving, right? Yeah. So just the second house from the corner, kitty corner from them. So, and what's interesting about that is whenever so I'm a member of Jax, and Jax is a very small group of people, and it's a forum. It's kind of like the people who left ROKC after we shut down. We kind of migrated over to Jax, and that's Tony Chrome and John Manning and a few other people. Just a little select few people. And what came out was, when you read the FBI reports of the canvassing of the neighborhood, remember they wanted to know who might have seen Oswald with this package under his arm, right? In the morning of the 22nd, walking to Buell's to get a ride to work, right? Well, there's only 2 houses on that whole block, both up and down, both sides, north and south, that they didn't go and talk to. And you're like, wow, they talked to everybody on this block except for these 2 houses. One was the Joneses, and that was Dial's wife's parents and where Dial lived. Whoa. The other one was Ruth Payne's hairdresser. Where are you going to get all the gossip? Who's going to know everything? The hairdresser. They
Exactly.
didn't talk to that lady. Avoided these 2 houses on the south side that had perfect views. She lived directly across from Ruth. That's her hairdresser. Boom, looking right at it. Did they talk to her? Nope. Talked to everybody else, and then the first person right across the street from Buell's. Nope. Talk to them either. So very, very interesting.
Hard to say that's not an intentional move, right?
I'd say there's no way in hell the FBI is avoiding these 2 places or not waiting on their doorstep or finding out where they work and going and interviewing them. No way in hell. With all the effort, now everything they put in, no, it's not happening unless they intentionally wanted that to not be in the record.
Right.
There's intent. So that's very, very damning little pieces of evidence right there. Yeah, these are. There's so many little bits to this about Fifth Street and Irving and JW Hallmark and when he sold his house and when Ruby's connection, the guy who bought it was connected to Ruby through real estate. It just, if I went into it, we'd be here all night. So I'm just gonna try and go through some of the highlights, like with Peggy. We did find there was an article about her having an accident, and it was with a guy named Gary A. Gunther, who happened to work at Voight Aerospace. And he drove head-on into her while crossing an icy bridge. And this is like what I asked Velma was, do you think this was related? Do you think there was any chance that they were trying to get her to shut up and get Dial to shut up? Because as you remember, a whole section of Dial Ryder's testimony was with a guy from the newspaper who had called and spoke with Dial, and Dial just gave him everything he knew and told him about the ticket, the repair ticket, all this stuff. And what was odd about the repair ticket was the guy who came out there didn't even collect the repair ticket from Dial. Well, no, you keep it. Are you kidding me? What? You're not going to even collect? I mean, this is so intentional, the stuff that the FBI did to just try and make things just go away. It's not even funny. I mean, you could make this stuff if you wanted to. And then there's the timeline of the FBI interviews, which are very interesting because, well, of course, they're going to go to Irving. They're going to clump certain people together, right? It's efficient. But they went and they first talked to Curtis Crowder, and you'd have to look him up. Not many people know who Curtis Crowder or what his involvement was, but there was a Shell station on the corner of Rock Island, and he was an attendant there at the Shell station, the gasoline station, and the mechanic there was on duty, and this car pulled in, and they wanted something done to their generator or alternator. I forget what it was on the car, but it wasn't charging and they're having trouble with it. And so the mechanic said, it's going to be whatever, $27 or something. He goes, well, how about this rifle? And they traded a rifle for the mechanic services. And so they went, so the FBI speaks to Crowder first, then goes and talks to Dial Ryder next, and then goes and talks to Lenny Mae Randall next. It's a weird little progression there. And so everybody wonders about that rifle that it might have been the rifle that was involved with the Walker shooting that they wanted to get rid of.
Yeah.
And they, it's funny. And then you could, if you really want to get into it, go just look up Curtis Crowder and what they did with the rifle and what they didn't do with the rifle. And you're just going to be banging your head on the table going, what the heck is going on? So, yeah.
Yeah.
What they do and what they don't do tells you a whole lot. You can have this little list over here, what they did, and this list over here, what you should have done. Well, we took pictures of it, and then we give it back to them.
Wow.
You know, stuff like that. You're like, oh my god, this is so crazy. But yeah, so that's
So
the kind of stuff.
Yeah, I put up on the screen Commission Exhibit 1829 and 1829 continued, and this is an interview with Dial Ryder, Irving Gunsmith Shop, Dallas, Texas, on November 28th, 63. I think the FBI talked to him a couple days before, right?
Yes, they did. They sent out their man, and he'd called him on the phone, and he went down and he met him at the store at Irving Sports Shop, and showed him the repair tag with the name Oswald on it, and you know the dollar amounts and all that stuff. And it was for drilling 3 holes and bore sighting a rifle, and it had Oswald's name on it, and you know, written in pencil. And they didn't want it. They left it with Dial.
Wow.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Do you want me to read this quickly?
Go for it.
All right.
Please shoot.
Question to Ryder. It has been pretty well established that Oswald, the accused assassin of the president, used a 6.5 Carcano rifle, which is an Italian make, I think, with a Mauser action. I think they mean bolt action. Do you remember working on any gun like that? Dial Ryder. No, sir, I don't. I sure don't. You have attached a lot of scopes, telescopic sights recently. How would you mount a scope on a gun like that? Ryder. Well, actually, there is really one way to mount it on there. It would be with a side mount, and I don't recall putting a side mount on any bolt action that I've worked on. What do you mean by side mount? Can you show me on this rifle here? Let's look at the gun. Side mount is mounted on the other side, on the side of the gun, on most likely on the left-hand side of the gun. Now, on this particular rifle here, which is an Argentine Mauser, it would be best on the top rather than on the side over here.
4 holes.
What do you do when you mount it? Well, Ryder says, you have to drill holes and attach the threads which are supposed to pass from the scope to the mount through that. Question, on this gun, it would be on top. But on the gun that has been established as the one that was used or found, let's say, in the TSBD, it would have been a side mount. Yes, sir, Ryder says. It sure would. And the pictures that the agent has showed me, it was a side mount. You were shown pictures by the FBI of the gun they found? Yes, sir. And that was a side-mounted telescopic sight. It sure was. And you don't remember mounting any side mounts? No, sir, I sure don't. Not on special or a bolt-action gun, I don't. So, interesting.
Very interesting, huh? So he gave 2 examples in his testimony of rifles that would take the 3 holes that you would drill for a side mount, and the types of mounts that it would take. And what was interesting was that we found a guy who was at the Irving Sports Drome, the shooting range, and he had shot there, and people remembered him. He was 300 pounds, beatnik, had a big beard, and he had these 2 rifles, and they match exactly the rifles that Dial said he would mount a side mount on. One was a U.S. rifle, and I forget what the other one was. But and he had shot there at the Sports Drome, and he took all his stuff with him, all the empty shells, everything with them, like they had kind of said that Oswald did, or, you know, and you could get this impression after a while of, you know, there wasn't any Oswald there with this guy or anybody. It was just him, his rifles. He was the one doing the shooting, and people remembered him. And he was very big in the community. His parents owned the lead plant there in Dallas with the huge smokestack that they called the Big Cigar, and a very big company that basically had mines everywhere, had like 50 active mines mining, and then they would take all the batteries from everywhere around Dallas, break them down. This place became a huge Superfund site. So there's a lot of information about that and what happened to it. But he would cast his own bullets, shoot his own, you know, do his own shooting and make his own rounds, which is very important if you've got something old like a Carcano, right? And you've got to take out the old powder, put in new powder, put in some new bullets, things like that. This was your guy. This was the guy. And both these rifles he was shooting at the sports drome, November 6th or 7th, exactly matches what Dial said what he would mount, side mounts on. And he didn't have mounts on them or scopes on these rifles. And he was sighting them in, is what he said. So this guy fits. I mean, he starts checking boxes like you wouldn't believe for, you know.
Except for the description.
Right. He's 300 pounds and he's beatnik with a beard and stuff. And you're just like, dang, how could people get this so wrong? But they did try to basically pound a round peg into a square hole with everything that was Oswald. It didn't matter what you look like or who you were. Yeah, that was Oswald. Yeah, that was him. So yeah, there's a big problem I have with what this guy was doing, what he was doing there at the drome, what he was shooting. Did he come in then later when Dial Ryder said this guy came in and dropped off this rifle and have the scope mounted? Because it fits exactly with, you know, the timeline. Dial didn't see the guy. That's the whole point of Dial's testimony. He doesn't know, you know, who he was or anything. There was a girl who worked at the counter. And, you know, I asked Velma about that. Do you remember the girl who worked at the counter? She was the lady who took in the guns and, you know, wrote up orders, things like that, and took payments and things. And she's like, no, I don't remember her. But there is a description of the man who brought in that rifle, and there isn't a description of him, but there is a description of what was brought in. And it was a man with a loose mount and a scope in a box. So, doesn't sound like Lee with a loose mount and a scope in a box if his rifle came with a mount and a scope. So, yeah,
Okay.
very interesting about this repair tag and Velma. And then, yeah, there's more to it, but that's the basic highlights of talking with her. And there's the Ryder stuff, and then there's the CBS TV interview there that they had with Ryder just before Thanksgiving. And I looked for that video, and it's now gone. And I contacted CBS. You know, I gave them all the information. I said I wanted to license that for my YouTube channel, and, you know, I'd pay for it, do all that. They searched their archives. So the interview with Dial Ryder no longer exists. There's just the still picture and the transcript, and that's it.
Wow.
And there's some other weird things that guy Woods, I believe his name, the reporter. He'd also done some stuff at the Texas School Book Depository for the reenactment, like the next day. I'm like, what? Reenactment the next day? He goes, yeah, there was a reenactment the next day that they did, and he was there. And that's all vanished too. So very interesting what you can't find anymore. You think CBS would have this stuff? They don't.
It wasn't part of like a bigger special that they did or inserted it into
CBS TV News, and it was the interview with Dial Ryder, and because of the picture that is still around that you can find, it was on like a military, this military site, and it had it on there for a long time. So it was definitely licensed before, from CBS, and it was put on their site, and can't find it now. It's gone. Weird, but maybe somebody has it on their computer somewhere. I've checked all the Facebook, JFK sites everywhere I could think of to ask people and find it again, and it's not.
Wow. So yeah, let's continue on the Dial Ryder thing. I have a couple more slides.
Sure.
So Ryder explained to him that he had located, I guess it's Woods, the reporter, right? He had located an undated ticket made out to one Oswald, reflecting the notations drilling and tapping $4.50 and bore citing $1.50, total charges $6. Ryder explained this ticket could only reflect that he had drilled and tapped screw holes for mounting a telescopic sight, and that according to the charges reflected on the ticket, the work done on the rifle would consist of drilling 3 holes, for which he charges $150 each, and the other $150 would reflect charges for bore sighting. Schmidt advised Ryder, went on to explain to him in detail the significance of the term bore sighting, which Schmidt interpreted to mean the alignment of the telescopic sight to the rifle bore for accurate shooting.
It seems like a lot of money to drill a damn hole. $1.50 in 1963. God.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you screw it up, you own the gun.
Well, true. Yeah.
So they get some money.
And then we have this document. I think it's an FBI document. I forgot to note it.
Right.
But it talks about Officer F.M. Turner of the DPD reported on Sunday evening, November 24th, that department had received a telephone call from one Ray John of Channel 8 News, presumably in Dallas, advising that the news office had received an anonymous phone call in which the caller had stated that he or she thought Oswald had the rifle sighted in on November 21st, 63 at the gun shop at 211 or 212 Irving Boulevard. Officer Turner reports that he checked and found the Irving Sports Shop at 221 East Irving Boulevard. The officer spoke to Mr. Greener, who was an employee, right, of the gun store.
Greener owned it.
He owned it. Okay. Who said that he and Ryder had discussed the matter, but that neither could remember having done any work for Lee Oswald on the assassination weapon. Mr. Greener said he would check his files for names and reconnect with the DPD.
So Greener was out. Go ahead.
Sorry. If Dial Ryder had been working on this weapon, you'd think his fingerprints would have been all over the damn thing, right?
Of course.
I wonder if they ever fingerprinted him.
Well, we don't know what rifle it was. That's the thing.
True.
Supposedly the Carcano they found in the Texas School Book Depository, but obviously that wasn't it because there wasn't any, right? No prints on that thing worth any value, according to the FBI.
Right,
and
right.
Daytona, Laytona went over that thing with a fine-tooth comb and said, no, everything that Carl Day says is complete hogwash. And Carl Day's late arriving prints and all that stuff are not to be trusted.
I agree.
So Greener was the owner of the sports shop, and he was gone at this. Basically, he was out of town. He was hunting. It's November, and he takes off and he leaves Dial in charge. Basically most of the time, that's the gig. He trusts Dial, and he would just leave him to run the shop. And so he doesn't know who came in either. He wasn't there. Doesn't know.
Right, and I think they first interviewed him. This is his statement on March 2nd, 64. I guess.
Interestingly, they had talked to him just a little while after they had talked to Dial, and Dial didn't share with them what was going on, which was the weird thing too. He didn't really tell Greener what was happening, and Greener was a little caught off guard by it. And the thing is, this all came about because of an anonymous tip, and 2 anonymous tips actually called in, and one of them was from a big husky guy's voice calling in, and I think this is your guy with the lead plant who had the rifles and was at the sports dome and was collecting his spent ammo and taking it all away. See, there's all kinds of boxes that just start getting checked again. You're like, husky guy with a deep voice calls in anonymously. Yeah. Gee, I don't know, who could that be? So
that's Murph, right?
Murph. Yeah.
Murph. Yeah.
Murph Metals. Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's it. So if anyone wants to check out Mr. Murph and Murph Metals and all the connections there of what he was doing at the sports drome, the rifles he was shooting, how they matched exactly Dial Ryder's testimony, you'd be like, you got
Yeah.
me.
Well, if you want, we can go to Murph. I have only 2 slides on him.
Just put up Murph stuff. Yeah. So if
all right,
we
let me
talk
do it.
about Murph for a second. And
Yeah.
Murph lived with his parents. So the Michael Murph. Now remember, he's by the time of the sports drome, he's got several years beard growth. He wears beatnik clothes. He wears at the sports drome. He was wearing like green pants and a red shirt. This guy is a 60s child, man. He's whoa, woohoo. And he lives at his parents' house or on the property. The parents are, rich as hell. This has got to be a multi-million-dollar a month operation that they're running. Like I say, it's good. One part
He's
of it,
driving a 62 Impala. Wow.
I mean, there's like 70 acres as part of the Murph Metals site, and then there's another 100 acres, which is the smelting plant and all the stuff they're doing there in West Dallas. So, and like I say, there's the giant smokestack that's stuck way up that supposedly made all the kids have cancer and stuff from all the crap that was spewing out of it. That was called the Big Cigar. Everybody in Dallas knows about these guys and the plant, and that's the Murphs. That's Murph Metals, and they were the parent company of like 5 or 6 other companies. So very well to do, very well connected, important family with the beatnik son, shooting guns and reloading ammo and smelting bullets of unknown calibers.
Here we go. He is described as weight 300 pounds. This is on the right side. I'm reading.
Yeah, you're a big husky guy.
5'11".
Not that tall.
Noted that Murph has a 4-year growth beard.
Yeah.
It's down to his nipples.
Wearing the beatnik clothing. He's got the beard. Kind of out there.
Probably smokes.
Kind of ties in with the beatniks from the DeMarchchild family. Remember the daughter was in Alaska with her beatnik husband, and they were supposed to meet with Oswald on November 21st. Did you ever read that note?
No.
Was it from Alexandria? Alexandria?
Yes, Alex. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was supposed to come down from Alaska with her husband, and there's notes of the interviews with them, and that they were supposed to meet with Oswald for some reason. For what, I don't know, but at least that's what's left over in the notes that we have.
Hey Joe, go back to that last slide with the picture of him.
Sure. It doesn't look 300 pounds unless
No.
Oh,
I just noticed it's so they talked to Floyd Davis. I'm guessing who owns or works at the sports drome. And it's on West Davis Street, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So is this Davis family
pretty connected to?
Big wheels there in Dallas, or
they were? Yeah, they're old timers, been there a long time. Yeah, big wheelers too.
To the Davis sisters?
No, No connection I could find. They're just other, lots of Davises, very common name. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, definitely well connected. You can imagine everybody and their brother would go and shoot there legally or whatever on small caliber stuff. They said most everybody who was shooting there that day was shooting like 22s and things like that. Target practice, and just you know honing their skills, keeping them current. And this guy brings in though high powered rifles. We're talking 30-06s.
Mhm.
So very, very easy to pick him out of the crowd as the guy shooting the big rifle that shot flames out the front. And they were always saying that was about Oswald. Oh, he's shooting these guns and they're passing these guns over the fence and all this stuff. That's Murph. All that stuff is Murph. 100% guaranteed. Checks that box.
Yeah. And of course, he denies, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but he
Yeah,
denies knowing Lee Harvey Oswald. He does not recall seeing anyone at the Sports Dome gun range resembling Lee Harvey Oswald. He does not recall anyone shooting a rifle with a scope and believes most everyone at the range was shooting, like you just mentioned, 22 caliber rifles.
Yeah.
He spoke only briefly with the persons on his left and right, and this limited conversation was in regard to clearing firing points so everyone could go forward and examine their targets. He reloads his own ammunition, which generally places in cardboard carton.
Carton.
Cartons. Oh, cartons. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, ES. It's small font here. He does not believe he carries ammunition loose or in a cap or blah blah blah. So yeah, that is Michael Murph, a character I was not familiar with whatsoever at all either. But wow,
Take
yeah,
a deep
5.
dive. Yeah, we could do a whole show on the Murph and the Murph medals and all the connections to the sports drone and the rifles and how that ties in. But
Yeah.
pretty
For
wild.
sure.
Like I say, lots of boxes to check. Everybody's what they said that the sports drone really points to him. Really does.
Yep, sounds like it. I wonder if because what was it at the sports drone where there's an allegation of somebody, Oswald, if you will, being there with Frazier, like, and doing something. Were they the ones passing the rifle over the fence or something?
Yeah, that's what they're trying to say. That they're trying to nail it on to Oswald,
Because they
but
described
it's
his
really
car.
Murph. How can you get Buell confused with a 300-pound guy with 4 years growth of beard, wearing a red shirt and green pants, all beatnicked up,
Can't
shooting
do it.
these 2 large caliber rifles that everybody's going to be like, every time you shoot him. And he was in a certain spot. There was like 12 stations shooting down the lane, and he was like in 9 or 8 or whatever. And Murph himself talks about, well, I knew who was in 11. It was a couple, and who was in 12. And well, that leaves you, dude. It leaves you, Mr. Michael Murph. The only guy that anybody would pick with a large barking rifle that shot flames. But he didn't have scopes on him. And that's the other thing. These 2 rifles didn't have scopes. So you would have to bring them in to a shop and have somebody drill and tap. Now, these 2 rifles are exactly what Dial says you would need to side mount on a U.S. Army, whatever, 30-06. And I forget what the other one was, but they match exactly what you would need to drill 3 holes, not 4. 4 for a top mount, 3 for certain side mounts. And that's what this guy had. And was shooting at the Sportsdrome on November 6th or 7th. So he would have brought it in like the next weekend into the shop, which would meet the time. So he could pick it up on the 20th or 21st. It all fits. It's just, it's a hell of a coincidence. If it's not him that brought this in, somehow got the Oswald name put on it. And
Well, that was my next question is, was it possibly backdated, like the Oswald thing? Because no one remembers him. No one says they do, and I get everyone wants to get their distance from Oswald. Do you?
just the lady at the counter who said that the guy who brought it in as a scope in a box, and a loose mount and the rifle.
But we know Oswald was impersonated
Yeah,
before
so
the
this would
assassination.
and she was shown pictures. She would, they went over this stuff with her, and it didn't ring any bells for her. And that's too bad. I haven't been able to find her, but she hasn't passed away. That might be something I could contact her about. But she gave a statement on it that but she didn't think it was Oswald. And this is what she remembers. So.
You
Yeah,
think a big dude with a big beard would stick out in her mind if it was him,
Yeah, well, see, they didn't show her Murph's pictures. They showed her Oswald's pictures, which wouldn't ring any bells for her.
True.
Had they shown people, if we knew what we knew now, and we could show them back, then or whatever. That's why I like, going over these people like we'll get to Virginia Davis and all the stuff that I sent her and that she confirmed. And, is there anything else on?
No, I was going to say, let's get into the Davis sisters because
let's get into the Davis sisters. So,
real quick before you do, Ed, I want to show everybody kind of a diagram here, just so everybody in their brain, because there's a lot going on here at the Tippett scene, right?
Yeah, there you go.
So, at the top of this area here, you'll see the last house on the left. With the arrow pointing to it that says Barbara Davis and Virginia Davis.
400.
And this house where the Davis sisters live. They're right on the corner. Scoggins is in his cab parked right next to their house.
On Patton.
Yep. And J.D. Tippett is in front of the house beside them on
404
10th Street. So Helen Markham is caddy corner on the opposite corner.
That's
standing.
right.
And Benavides is in his truck across the street, basically from where Tippett is shot. Just so everybody has an idea in their head where all this is going on, because I know the Tippett scene is crazy when you're talking about the witnesses.
And there's also Mrs. Poland.
There's another one. She wasn't on the diagram, but where was she at?
Actually, if you put the diagram back up, you can see the building where she was in the upstairs apartment. Right there at the bottom corner is right next to the alley. You see the alley is at the bottom. That's the alley. And hers is the one right where Oswald supposedly would have ran right in front of her down Patton.
Okay.
So that building right there, that little square one, that big square one, she was in the top floor in the front in her bedroom.
Okay. And she's the one that kind of marked the time as much earlier than 2 or 116.
I think everybody pretty much had an earlier time than 116.
Sure.
But I think she nailed it down close to like 106 because she was watching her show or something when all this went down.
She was actually sleeping. She was sleeping, and Mrs. Holland was asleep.
Okay.
But I think you're thinking of Erlene.
Yeah,
Robin.
I get them all white ladies confused,
Erlene Roberts always watched As the World Turns, and As the World Turns is half an hour show, comes on at 12, whatever, it's over at 12:30, or no, it comes on at 12:30, it ends at 1. So she would have been watching her show, and supposedly her sister Bertha Cheek calls her. She doesn't say it's Bertha Cheek, so you don't see that in the reports, but we know it is. It's Bertha Cheek. It's her sister calls her. Who's Bertha Cheek is the one who met with Ruby, right, at the club. They want to start another club. Okay, so they're tied. Everybody's tied together in this, like you wouldn't believe. So Bertha Cheek's calling Erlene Roberts, who's the lady who takes care of the rooming house, the Beckley rooming house, and she's supposedly watching her show, right? She watches it every day, never misses it. This is a soap opera. If you miss it, oh my God, wow, God, what happened? So she watches it every day like clockwork. She gave 2 different reports about what she had done. One report was that she got the call from someone telling her to turn on the TV And so she goes and she turns on the TV. She's standing there messing with the TV, and in runs Oswald, goes to his room and grabs a jacket and changes his whatever, and runs back out right as she's up trying to mess with the TV. And did you hear the president's been shot? Okay, yeah, bullshit. Anyways, her other statement was, I was sitting on the couch watching as the world turns, and in runs Oswald. So yeah. Which is it, lady? Come on. Really? So that's the problem with the timeline there. If the show isn't over until 1 or whatever, and he's running in and out, he'd have to grow wings to get there. And then he's standing over at the bus stop. No,
Right.
The timing never worked out for him. They had to adjust things to get him to be over here. But then there's so many other witnesses, and I'll go to those. But there was just something that came up, and I'm like, I need to call this lady. I need to find her and call her, because that's Charlie Davis, okay, Mrs. Charlie Virginia Ruth Wilbanks Davis. And I was just, there's so many questions and so many things left unanswered, and then there was stuff by Dale Myers that made it even worse, because Myers will just twist things and leave things undone and change things so that it appears certain. And I'm like, man, calling this lady. And so I got to call her, and sure enough, I started talking to her, and she started telling me everything. She just opened right up. And I guess the only other person she really talked to was Myers. Dale Myers, and gave an interview, both her and Barbara Davis. So they were the sisters, and they were living out that place at 400. And there was a couple things that we wanted to know, because she had said weird things like the cops were already there, and all these kind of weird statements, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard you on the other show going, what's this with the cops were already there and all this kind of thing. Yeah, I wanted to know. So I just started talking to her, and kind of made friends with her, and then I started sending her stuff. I said, have you ever read your testimony or Barbara's testimony? And that was her sister, Barbara Jeanette Davis. And she goes, no. And then I was like, I see these two guys. I saw these two guys standing there in the hikes photos, the photos of the day, the whole scenes that anybody's seen, the photos, those are the hikes photos, or it's a recreation by the Dallas police. So of the day, that's your news guy, Daryl Hikes, went out and took pictures as the cops were there, and Barnes is, doing the fingerprinting of the car, all that kind of stuff is happening right there, and he's taking photos of it. And I'm like, those two dudes look familiar. And so I started looking online, and I go, we've heard a lot about the Davis sisters, right? Who are the Davis brothers? And so I found their obituaries, and I started looking at these photos, and I'm like, those are the Davis brothers. Two guys standing right in front of the freaking police car while Barnes and everybody are there. They're standing right there, and I'm going, let's see, Troy Lee's obituary. Yep. Charlie's obituary. Yep. Those are the brothers. And so I was like, I gotta call this lady. I gotta see if these are both Troy and Charlie standing there.
It's up there now.
Yep. So when I found those, I was like, dude, that's them. That's gotta be them. And so that was my first question to her. Have you seen these photos? She's like, no. I was like, you never seen them? Can I send you these photos? Can I send you the pictures and ask you if you recognize Troy and Charlie? And she goes, yeah, sure. And so I sent them to her, and next time I give her about a week, and I call back and I go, did you get the pictures? She's like, yeah, I got the pack of pictures. And I sent her a whole bunch of stuff, but she goes, yeah, that's them. That's Troy and Charlie. So Troy is the guy, you see the man in the suit, and yep. You're pointing right at him. That's Troy. And then right next to him is Charlie, standing next to Barnes. And they were roofers, right? So we heard that they were roofers. I don't know if you've read all the stuff from the sisters, but their husbands were roofers, and there was only one place around that any kind of construction stuff was going on, and that was on the corner of 10th and Denver, just up the block, right? The end of the block. They were building an apartment complex. And so there was bricklayers, all kinds of construction trades going on there. And there was also roofers. So these guys were doing the shingling on the roof. And that's why they're there in this picture. They had heard the shooting and they had ran back to see what was going on, to see if Barbara and Virginia were okay. And so they were there pretty quickly, you know. They got down off the roof, ran right over, seeing what was going on. What's going on with Barbara? What's going on with, you know?
Were they living there too, or were they just happen to be working close to their sisters?
No, that's their husbands.
Oh, okay. I got you.
So these are brothers. These are the Davis brothers, and so the sisters aren't sisters.
They're
sisters-in-law.
Yeah.
They married the brothers, two different girls, Virginia and Barbara, married Troy and Charlie Davis. So,
yeah.
And they're living at 400 East 10th, but also on Patton, right? So they're on the corner. And if you read in their statements and the affidavits and their testimony, which is very, very interesting, you'll see that
I have it.
Put her on up. So the thing is that Virginia lived on the side. She lived on the Patton side in an apartment. And then Barbara lived in the front where it looks right out at the Tippett scene on 10th, right? And supposedly they're both together in Barbara's apartment with the kids, with Barbara's two children or whatever. And so they were there with the kids, and they were sleeping. And the boys, the Davis brothers, were down doing their job, down doing the roofing. And but I sent her this stuff, and sure enough, I was like, "Have you ever read your affidavit? Have you ever read your testimony?" And I sent them all these things, and she's like, "Wow." Some of this stuff just blew her mind. She hadn't thought about it in years or anything. Like say Dale Myers is probably the only person who's probably talked to her about it. I asked her if, did you ever talk to anybody? And she's like, no. Charlie and Troy told us to just keep our mouths shut. Don't say anything about this. Just be quiet. And she told me
white male, 16. Instead of a white female.
I think they got that wrong.
Yeah, she's got. That's why I say I like him. I like him young. I like talking to people like Roy Lewis from the Texas School Book Depository, because he was the youngest guy there. He remembers everything. He's sharp as a tack as far as memory and stuff. So
Fraser every day.
So this is what Virginia Davis says in her 1122 of DPD affidavit, and we're going to read the Secret Service one after, which I think goes into a little more detail. Today, November 22nd, about 1:30 p.m., my sister-in-law and myself were lying down in our apartment. My sister-in-law is Jeanette Davis?
Barbara Jeanette Davis.
Okay. We live in the same house in different apartments. We heard a shot and then another shot and then ran to the side door at Patton Street. Again, we showed where they were, the 400 house. I saw the boy cutting across our yard, and he was unloading his gun. We walked outside, and a woman was hollering, "He's dead, he's dead, he's shot." This woman told Jeanette to call the police, and she did. I saw the officer that had been shot lying on 10th Street after Jeanette had called the police. Jeanette found an empty shell that the man had unloaded and gave it to the police. After the police had left, I found an empty shell in our yard. This is the same shell I gave to Detective Doherty. The man that was unloading the gun was the same man I saw tonight as number 2 man in the lineup, Miss Virginia Davis. So, was that Oswald, number 2 man?
Yes, yes. This is a 7:30 show up or lineup.
Right. And of course, the lineups are a whole different.
Uh, I sent her pictures with the cops in the lineup and told her who these people were, Abel's and the 2 cops. I informed her who they were, and she was like, "Oh, these guys are dirty." She had nothing good to say about the Dallas police. Not a damn thing. I can't put these words on this thing, so I'll just let you imagine what she said about the cops. You want me to tell you a secret?
We talked about William Wally Wednesday night here on the Members Only show, and when and he viewed the lineup too on Saturday, and of course he said it was the number 3 man, but then he was viewing it as, well, Oswald was the second man in the room from left to
They
left.
got
To left,
big numbers over their heads, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's number 3. What was the number of his head? I don't know.
2. Oh,
I'm counting from right to left, doesn't everybody?
yeah.
So here's a little tidbit that she told me. I got 3 good ones that she told me. I don't know where to start. So
Virginia.
Yes, Virginia.
Okay.
Okay, she told me. Which one should we go with first?
Your call.
She told me that somebody came out who wasn't just a regular cop to the scene.
Like not
Yes.
wearing a cop uniform.
Like not wearing a cop uniform. Can you guess? I'll give you 2 guesses. Each get
I'll go first. Westbrook.
Croy.
nope and nope. Will Fritz.
Will Fritz.
Blew my mind. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Will Fritz? She goes, yeah, Will Fritz was at the scene. Came out there. And she didn't have good words to say about him either, because I guess, they had came back out basically after the shooting and everything that happened, when they had called the police and all that kind of stuff. They went back in, kind of locked the door and stayed inside until, everybody came around, and they came back out and they were looking at the body and all this kind of stuff. But sometime Will Fritz came out there, and with this is what I've been trying to figure out is like, remember all the rumor or all the talk about Will Fritz when he left the Texas School Book Depository? You can see him coming down the steps and everything, and him and whatever, Boyd or Sims, right, are with him. And then they leave, right?
Supposedly went to Decker, right?
Exactly. Supposedly they went to Decker's office. Well, have you ever seen the pictures of Decker's office?
Yeah.
Where they've got the chairs all the way around the room with everybody there from Larry Florer to Ewens to all these people are in his office at this time, and supposedly Will Fritz comes in there and stops everything. No one ever says that. Not a damn soul. I can find nothing of anybody ever saying, "Oh yeah, we saw Will Fritz going into the building," or Will Fritz going into his office, or him taking a break and going to talk to. I can't find anything like that. So where did Will Fritz really go, and why would he need to go out there? It was very interesting that she said that. So I've been trying to nail that down, but
I mean, I can see why.
She would have known him. She would have known him, right?
Yeah, she knew Will Fritz. Yeah, and she goes,
Okay.
he's got his hat on. He comes out, and she didn't like him one bit because he was basically trying to tell her what she saw.
It sounds
They
right.
interacted, I guess, for a minute, and she's, the hell do you know, man? I was there. It's like some guy coming and telling you, oh, you didn't see that, ma'am. Where have you heard that before with the Dallas cops or the sheriffs or all this kind of stuff? But so that's one of those little tidbit secrets that now you know to look out for. Where did Fritz go during that 15, 20 minutes? It doesn't take long to drive over there, see what's going on. And then he went back because they had arrested Lee at the theater. So then he goes back to headquarters and they bring him in just about the same time, these days he arrives, So yeah, all this stuff about, well, I sent these guys out to Irving. Well, you would just send them to Irving, or you'd make a phone call to Decker, be like, yeah, I'm sending my guys out to Irving. Can you have your guys, meet us there? Why do you need to go to his office and talk to him? I mean, all that stuff was all rumory, bogus stuff. And it always sat in the back of my mind. Every time I heard them, like, why would you need to go clandestinely meet with Decker? Probably because it never happened. That's the whole thing. It's probably all a bunch of garbage. So you would just send Boyd and Sims out there, or whatever, and it just,
Yeah.
this stuff just drives you crazy because it sits in your head, and then you hear this stuff and you're like, you're kidding me. So
we just did a show on Westbrook and his crazy movements.
Right.
Was last week, Rob? The week before?
Yeah.
One of them.
Westbrook, Gerald Hill, come on, man. What were these guys doing running around everywhere? Who to still have in the car? And
Got a picture that Croy had autographed and said, found the wallet, or Oswald's wallet at the Tippett scene, and he signed it.
okay, I'm glad you brought up the wallet. So, okay, here's something. Here's the other thing that I never really heard before. Okay, and you can put up the street, the signs that are knocked down. You can put up those pictures.
I will.
Yeah, put up the picture of the knockdown sign, and I'm going to explain why there's so many pictures of a knockdown sign.
I've always wondered that.
Okay, this is going to blow your mind. Fill in all those blanks, all those little creepy things in your head. Right. So they're taking pictures of
4 up here. Yep.
Right. Well, why do they have all these pictures of this knockdown sign? What the hell does this have to do with anything?
Now, is this right beside the Davis house?
Exactly. Right beside the Davis house. Now, what she told me kind of blew my mind. I was talking to her and everything about all this, and she said, do you know about the guy who ran into our porch? I was like, what? She goes, yeah. A few hours before the Tippett shooting, a guy runs into her porch, runs over the signs, everything, and hits the house.
Damn.
I was like, no.
What are the
That's
odds?
why there's pictures of the signs and everything? I was like, this is crazy. We gotta investigate this. So, me and the guys at Jack's, I told them all about this and stuff. And so we started looking at it and everything. And we're like, you know what? There was a guy who hit their house in a car. It was an accident that happened right there in that intersection just a few hours before. And there's an accident report. And Mensel's there, all the cops who are supposedly in this, this section, this area, are at this scene, and they're all hanging around. So this guy who works as a grocery store for Wyatt's department manager, he's one of the managers. He had just got transferred from like Fort Worth, and so he's got a house just up the street there by Helen Markham. And he is driving through the intersection, supposedly runs the stop sign going down Patton, and this kid in a truck going down 10th at 35 miles an hour hits him in the side of his car hard enough that it spins the car around 360, sends it off through this sign, through the yard, and then hits the porch. And the Davis sisters freak out, run out, see this car hit their house. They call the police, and so all the police come, and they're all there, and they make a report. And you can put up Emery Austin's picture now
Okay.
that we know what had happened there. And I asked her, do you know who this guy was? Did you know? And she could describe the car and stuff, but there was a death right there.
There we go.
Right there on that corner, there was a death just before Tippett's.
So he died.
Nope. His
No.
dog died. The kid hit him so hard when it spun the car around, it blew the door open. The dog flew out and was killed instantly.
Oh shit.
So that's a picture right there. You can see him on the left, I guess it would be, of him with the bow tie is Emery Austin, and he's the manager there, the Wyatt's food store or whatever. And yeah, he's the one who got in the accident. He was hit so hard that he had to go to the hospital. He was knocked unconscious or whatever, and he had to have a metal plate put in his head.
Damn.
This kid supposedly hit him only doing 35 miles an hour. Nope. Total lie. I don't know who the kid is because you can now put up the accident report. If you see that one, it's called accident report. I think it's labeled, I believe.
I might not have it.
You got it. It's a good one.
All right, I'll find it in a second.
Yeah. So the accident report, it's pretty interesting because, like I said, it says it's all blacked out. The other guy's name is blacked out. The kid, supposedly he's like 16 or whatever. So
the black and white one.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
And so he supposedly hits him at 35 miles an hour, and I mean, no way, you're not gonna do that kind of damage and spin the car out and do all that kind of stuff at 35 miles an hour.
So this is one of them, and then the next one I have in two pieces.
There you go. That's the actual report there. Yeah, and it gives the information, but you'll see they don't give the kid's name. It's blacked out. So Dale Myers actually got this from the police department. They still had it, and so he was able to get it. He figured out who Austin was because of Mary. Mary is the girl who went with Lad Holland to get the blanket to put over Tippett's body. This is the daughter. Mary is the daughter of Emery Austin, who was at the scene, who was there with little Lad, who was 13 at the time. And the funny thing about Lad and the timing is that Lad was downtown at Dealey Plaza. His dad took him to see the president, right? They watched the parade go by, and his dad says, "Let's get out of here. It's going to be tough to get out of here." So they leave from by the courthouse. They leave, they get in the car, are able to get out of the traffic and get back to where his school was, which was like a Catholic school or whatever, up on Marsalis or whatever. And Lad says, "I'm not going to school." And there's an interview with Lad done by Gavin McMahon, and it's on YouTube, so you can look up Lad Holland, and Gavin McMahon does an hour-long interview with him, explains everything. But Lad was walking home to that house that I showed you that is there by the alley on Patton. And Lad said, "I didn't hear any shots." And he was walking all the way down on 10th Street. He didn't hear any shots, but when he gets down there, he sees the commotion of people there. He just saw Tippett's dead body. And so he'd seen, black and white movies and things like that, where they go and they put a blanket over the dead body and stuff. So that was in his mind to do. Lad had a tough youth. He worked a lot of jobs. He worked paper route So he knew the whole neighborhood. He threw papers to almost every house. So he knew everybody's, address and all the people there. And he also worked at Dean's Dairy Way. Now, if you know about where the killer ran down and went behind the Texaco, well, he would have gone right in front of Dean's Dairy Way. And the lady at Dean's Dairy Way, Dottie, I believe it was her name, Dottie Freeman, and her husband owned Dean's Dairy Way, Dean Freeman. And that's milk and ice cream and all that kind of stuff, and some produce and things like that, a little store. And has roll-up doors, and she heard commotion. This is interesting because she went out and she looked, and there's an empty lot, and then there's a 2-story house, right? But the bottom was all storage for a furniture store that was just another house over or whatever. And that's where they it stored like furniture in the bottom. And everything that you read pretty much tells you like this house was they're just old houses for furniture. Well, no, upstairs was an apartment that was actively lived in by a 30-year-old lady. So whenever Dottie heard commotion, she went out, and this guy who had ran down the street, ran up the stairs on the side of the building, and was trying to get into that door to that second-floor apartment. Very interesting.
Yeah.
I found out who it was and everything. I've got it on Jack's site and stuff, but she worked at like a grocery store as a manager. I don't think it was Wyatt's, but anyways, so this guy runs over to go behind the Texaco, right? And she followed him. Dottie followed him. She says the guy went over between Dean's Dairy Way and the Texaco, and then took off his jacket and threw it on a rack. So there's a tire rack, some posts, and threw it on there, and then ran down towards the alley. And she told the cops that. She goes, yeah, there's his jacket right there. And supposedly the jacket was found where? Under a car, farther back in the lot, all this kind of stuff. And she was like, no, that's not what happened. I watched the guy. I followed him. They totally discount her. You won't find her in the Warren Commission or any of this kind of stuff. So very selective of what they want the story to be. And she was 30 years old too. That's the thing. This isn't some doddering old lady. Now, when Dale Myers contacted her, of course, she was, like whatever, 80 or something. Yeah, and she wasn't in good health. And so, and then her daughter said, don't believe her. She doesn't know what she's talking about and all this kind of stuff. And Dale Myers is right on that. Yep, she's old. She doesn't know what she's talking about. No, she was a 30-year-old lady who knew exactly what had happened and explained exactly where this guy went and what he did. Took off his jacket, threw it on the rack, all this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Ladd worked there. And whenever he had, after the shooting, he hung around for a little while and he went to go to work. So he went over to Dean's Dairy Way, and there's Dottie trying to explain to the cops, hey, this is what happened. This is what happened. And they pretty much told him, no work today. This stuff's going on. Come back tomorrow, right? So he goes to his other job, not throwing papers, but he works at another job too. Lots of jobs, right? This is got a single mom. He's trying to help out. He's got other kids in the family and stuff. So he goes to the bowling alley, which is just down Jefferson, Oak Lanes. And he goes in there and he's cleaning up after a tournament. So they have a tournament in the morning. They're going to have another tournament at night. So he comes in and he gets to clean all the garbage and stuff like that for them. He does odd jobs. And so Ladd says there was some weird stuff going on there. There was the lady who works the little cafe was trying to explain to these two detectives, cops, Dallas police, that this guy had ran in to the bowling alley and went back into the bathroom, which you'd have to kind of know where to go back in the bathroom. And he had a pistol shoved down his pants. and he ran in and went and hid in the bathroom. And the manager went, she told him, hey, this guy went to the bathroom. Who's this guy? You know, because I guess they get people off the street, come in, kind of hang around, go use the bathroom and stuff. So the manager goes in, rousts him out. Hey, you got to get out of here, man. You can't use our bathroom unless you're a customer or you're bowling or whatever. Get them out. But they put two and two together, I guess, and they're figuring, who's this guy with the pistol and a pistol in his pants? He ran in off the street. Very interesting. And see, that's where Ladd, he was young. He was 13, so he remembers all this, vividly. And he's a great interview. I suggest you go watch that interview with Gavin McMahon on YouTube. About an hour and 20 minutes. He'll explain everything. But his mother was the one, like I say, with the upstairs apartment that looked down the alley. Now, like I was telling you about this Emery Austin, who had the accident, all the cops were there. So they had to come tow both cars. Emery's was told the truck was messed up. The kid walked away or whatever. But they had to come tow both. So you could see on the report that it's the same tow truck driver comes and gets both cars. If you've ever had your car towed or anything like that, it's going to take a while. So we're talking several hours of them just guy coming, towing, going back, towing it to the yards, whatever. And so, cops hang around for this stuff. They stay at the intersection. They filled out a report. They drew, they were there. That's what Virginia's telling me. She goes, the cops were there, man. They were there up until maybe an hour before, out front. And then they left. So they were there.
Wow.
And then you've got Ladd Holen's mother, Mary, or whatever, saying that she sees this other cop car in the alley when the shooting happens, right? Like, it hadn't left. It was still there. There was still a cop there or something that's going on. So there's a lot more to the story. And then you've got all of Menzel. Remember, Menzel took lunch. Here you've got the president coming to town. You've got this huge parade, right? All this kind of stuff happening. How do Dallas police treat it? Do they call everybody in? Yeah. It's your day off. It's your day off. Who cares? It's just the president. It's just Kennedy, right? You're like, the hell? So here you have Menzel taking lunch. Well, why would you? Well, if it's depleted of officers in that area in Oak Cliff, you can let Menzel just take a lunch? Yeah. So he's in Lubby's Cafe, right? So that's on the corner there of Adams and Jefferson. Just a couple doors down from the corner of Adams and Jefferson.
It's partner, right?
Who's that?
Menzel? Was he supposed to be Tippett's partner?
No, I think you're thinking about the other guy. But Menzel normally works that section. That's the area. Right.
Okay.
Tippett works a totally different area, and he was brought in, right? And so, but Menzel goes to lunch. Here's the shooting of the president happening right then, and he's like, "I'm calling in to go to lunch." Anyways, so he's in lobbies, and then there's all kinds of weird things with Menzel too, because here he's saying, "Oh, I left part of my lunch and had to leave, or I had to go use the phone because I heard the president had shot." And at one point he says, "Well, I was in line getting my lunch, and the guy behind the counter, somebody told me the president had shot." Well, which is it, buddy? Were you eating lunch? Were you getting your lunch? Why would you use the phone? You got a radio in your car. If you just heard the president had been shot, why are you trying to call in to headquarters? None of this makes sense. Who's he calling? Okay, just down the street. Okay, we're on Adams. A couple doors down is Lubby's. Here down on the other corner is the top 10. Who's there? Tippett. So within a block, you've got Menzel and Tippett supposedly making phone calls. Very weird.
Yeah.
Very strange coincidences of what's going on here, that these cops are having to use phones when they've got perfectly good radios.
Yeah.
But they're using telephones.
Which
to
means
make
they didn't want anybody to hear them on the radio.
There's something's going on, right? But yeah, and so like within a block, you've got both these cops on at the same time making phone calls. Yeah, it's just very odd, very weird, very, very strange.
Yeah, 100%. And
100%.
I want to address a comment here from Toop74. Janet Groden talks to a commotion with teenagers and a stabbing, I think, earlier that day, the same location of Tippett's murder. And Rob, if my memory serves me correctly, which it usually doesn't, I think one of our first episodes after the Markham series was after the Martin series was the Markham Boys, and Helen Markham's son was a big
That's what we had Kevin
troublemaker.
McMahon to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah,
We had him on the show to talk about the Markham boys.
yeah, and
Right.
and the 10th Street Gang, did they call
Correct.
themselves that? Okay. Do you have
That
any
was
interesting insights on that?
Yeah, that was Cecil Smith, who supposedly witnessed the fight and the supposed attempted stabbing. I don't think there was any actual stabbing, but there was somebody who pulled a knife, is what he said. It wasn't a stabbing, but there was a fight between kids and a knife was pulled. And that's when people jumped in their car and drove away and other guys ran off. That's the thing that Cecil Smith witnessed, that like people like Dale Myers go, oh, that guy don't know what he's talking about. Don't worry about that.
Right.
Oh yeah, he just witnessed something that fits exactly with what would be going on with the 10th Street Gang and Markham's son.
Was it this
Now,
guy?
you've got a picture that I found when I was looking at the hikes photos. I said, dude looks like Dago. So you got a picture, a high school picture, that'd be just a few years before the Tippett murder, of a guy who is called Dago, right? Who's one of the guys who shot somebody, right? Supposedly,
Yeah,
one of the witnesses.
We know him well.
Yeah, we
Yes.
spell his name out because it's apparently a slur against Italians.
And that picture, when I saw that just struck me as, God, that guy looks a lot like him. I mean, you give him from his high school picture to there, and the little hair loss on the side, and man.
So this is from the group that was standing around the Tippett's police car.
That's right.
With the Davis.
I think that's Charlie's ear right there in
Right.
front of that
Okay.
guy's face. And very interesting. He looks exactly like Dago. So
That dude is a character, man. I tell you.
yes,
Rob,
Right.
Rob does a great impression of him if you haven't heard about it.
His Mark Lane interview is classic. He tells him, "Oh, Jack Ruby, he would just eat him and stuff. He wouldn't have sex. Well, he just eat him and stuff."
right. So good. Oh my God.
You can't make it up, and there's a lot of funny things going on, from the stop sign to attempted stabbing to the Tippett thing to
Yes.
The road shooting after.
And there's Bert Smith. Bert Smith, Bert Smith, one of the kids who had seen this, who was supposedly with his friend, and he's possibly AWOL from the army or whatever. We don't know what's going on there. So here's another little secret. Virginia and Barbara, when they get back from the lineup, it's probably 10 o'clock at night. He tells me that, they got taken down there, at like 5:30 or 6 or whatever. The cops came and picked them up, collected them and that shell that she had found, and she turned that over to Doherty, and they took her down to the lineup, and they were there all night, until they probably didn't get Britt back till like 10:30, right? And the boys were there at home, the Davis brothers taking care of the kids, and they're like, God damn, what's going on here? So the girls get back, right? The boys say, pack your shit. They packed up their stuff threw it in the car, and drove to Athens, Texas, where they're actually from.
Damn. Just like that.
Here's the weird thing. At about 7 a.m, knocking on the door, and they're like, what the hell? They had just got in, got to sleep and everything. And there's two very buff, big looking Secret Service agents going, come back with us to Dallas right now. Get in the car. And they took the girls back to Dallas.
And how far away was Athens from Dallas?
80, 100 miles. It's a drive.
A couple hours.
It's not part of Dallas, like the big ring.
Right.
It's quite a little way. It's like 100 some miles. So it's a little drive, and you won't find anything about this in any Secret Service report. If they had mistaken these guys for FBI agents, there's no FBI report. There's nothing like that. But they said these were Secret Service agents, and they found them within hours of them hightailing it out of Dallas. And she told me the reason why was because this was gang activity, and they had just thought they had just identified a gang member. They didn't know who Oswald was, right? They had no clue. They were like, let's get the hell out of Dodge. And so the Davis boys were like, man, don't talk about this. Get in the car. We got to get out of here. And so they went back to where they were from. And she told me this all has to do with Jack Ruby. Jack Ruby was the one who ran the gang. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, that's the guy who's behind the 10th Street gang. He's like the mob guy who has these boys do the work. They're not going to get in trouble. So they do whatever it takes, robberies, all this kind of stuff, break-ins, whatever needs done. That's who Jack would have do it. I was like, oh, this is blowing my mind. What are you talking about? She's like, yeah, this is crazy. So if you remember the phone number, remember Miller was in the phone book of Jack Ruby, but that phone number went to the Davis sisters' phone.
What?
And I asked him about this. I'm like, well, how long did you have the phone? They said, well, we had just moved there, like the month before, and we only had the phone since we had moved there. But here it is, Larry Crayford or Crawford or whatever he wants to call himself, Smokey. He wrote that number in there, and he hadn't been there that long. So what's going on that this Miller number is in there and it goes to the Davis sisters? The coincidences are just mind-blowing. So yeah, just that they had gotten picked up in Athens and brought back to the Secret Service, and there's no record of this. There's no report. What did they talk about in the car for this length of time? They didn't ask him any questions. These are two agents that didn't file a report, didn't write anything, were just sent to go collect the girls like a taxi cab. Very weird, boys. This is very strange stuff. When you hear this from them, you're like, holy crap. You want to know another little secret?
Of course.
Duh.
So the Warren Commission was going on, right? And they wanted the girls to come to DC, right? Virginia tells them, stick it up your rear. I'm not going anywhere. So they basically had something over on Barbara, and they made Barbara fly to Washington, D.C. when she was 8 months pregnant alone to go testify for the Warren Commission in D.C. Damn. Whoa. I was like,
why Barbara and not Virginia?
Virginia was dead set against even talking about it. They said they were going to subpoena her, and they were going to come get her.
Yeah. Well, they usually, when they were interviewing all these people in Dallas, right, they usually sent Mr. Ball there.
He did, and he interviewed her. He did.
Yeah.
Down at the post office. They set up an interview, and she came in and she agreed to go ahead and do an interview in Dallas, but she refused flatly to be flown to Washington, D.C. and be interviewed by the commission.
Yeah,
But-
I mean, the only reason I could think is intimidation at that point. Alone, 8 months pregnant,
Crazy.
right? That's the only reason I could think that you'd want to do that.
Barbara just went along with it. She just unbelievably, she went. It's craziness. And then, like I was talking about, Bert, Jimmy Burt. It's kind of the same thing happened to him, right? The thing with him was they took him the other way. They took him to whatever, Terrell, Texas, or wherever the army base was. They stuck him in a car and drove him back to where he was supposed to go, because he was supposed to be back by Monday or something to be on the base. And there is nothing about what they talked about in that car, what was going on with Bert in that car, not a damn thing. You only have the stuff of when they got to the base, they interviewed him. You're not going to talk to the guy in the car for 3 hours or whatever it takes to get to. So wild, man. I mean, don't
Nobody talked in cars in
No.
1960.
no, they flipped the scenery
Right.
at night when it's pitch black.
Boy, it sure is going to be raining hard today, Lee. What do you think?
That's a good Buell right there. Exactly. Nobody talks in cars. No one. So these are all very interesting things you find out when you start, talking to people who are actual witnesses and speaking to them about this stuff. And I mean, and there was the weird thing about Lewis. Lewis was Barbara's father, Barbara Jeanette Davis. She was the father. And she was staying over at Virginia's, right? Supposedly at this time. And he supposedly had found a shell out in the yard. Phew. He had came home after the cops had taken the girls to go to the lineup. He had supposedly came home and looked around the yard and found a shell. And he had it in his belongings. And still had it years later, I guess, when Myers contacted him and she had him describe it. And she says it was silver or gray. No, it was gray. It wasn't like chrome or anything like that. Like, the shells we see that had the, of course, the gun belt residue from Cops gun belt. Nothing like that. No, it was supposedly like a gray shell, and it was something he had found and kept as a souvenir. And that's what the girls had done. Virginia told me that whenever she found hers or whatever, and she put it up on the mantle, and they had it in a little piece of paper, and they were going to keep it as a souvenir or whatever. But then the cops came to get them. We better give this to them. So very interesting little details that you find out. Yes.
It's crazy.
Yeah. There's very, very interesting bits there. And like I was telling you about the Emery Austin, like whenever the dog flew out of the car and got killed, and he had to get a plate in his head, and there's part of that report there, and that's the one that's filled out by. If you put it back up, I'd be able to tell you. But
Yeah,
but it was-
sure. It's I got it all the way back here. Let's see. Sorry, you gave me a lot of slides.
that one, and you can see that it actually says that they went and they talked to the daughter. Well, why didn't they go talk to Emery Austin? Why did they contact the daughter? At the very bottom, you'll see that's the. They didn't know what was going on. They were getting Pete Barnes to come out and take samples of the paint on the pole because they thought this was part of some
Right.
thing with the why Tippett was there. And I asked Virginia, I go, did Tippett show up there because of the accident? She goes, no. he didn't show up for the accident. He wasn't there at that time. He showed up about an hour later is when he showed up and the shots happened. And, but yet,
Well, why the hell was R.D. Lewis there? Wasn't he like the polygraph examiner?
well, they were trying to bring in all these people, like Barnes, to get samples of the paint off the pole, and like they had no idea what was going. They just had to ask Virginia, like or Menzel or anybody else. Hey, what happened with this accident? It's very strange. It's very weird. But down at the bottom where it says they talked to the daughter or whatever. Why'd they go and talk to the daughter? They had all this information from the cops and the report and an accident report and all this kind of stuff. And the only thing I could think of is that everything flew out of the car. The dog flew out of the car. He flew out of the car. Everything flew out of the car, right?
Was the daughter with him?
No, not the daughter, the dog.
Right. I just didn't know if the daughter was with him
Nope,
too in the car.
she wasn't there. She wasn't there in the car. For whatever reason, she was still at home, and he was going wherever it was on a Friday in the morning. I don't know why he would take your dog to work if he was going to, be the manager of the store, but the dog was in the car.
Well, she made a very no shit statement. Daughter of Emery Austin stated her father hit stop sign. No shit.
I mean, duh. And why did they have to go get that from her? They've got cops. They've had cops there. It's like they were trying to just. And the only thing I can think of is they went to return his wallet. Well, maybe his wallet flew out of the car and was found there in the bushes. It has nothing to do with Oswald or anybody else. It was just Emery's wallet that flew out of the car and was laying in the bushes. And when everybody looking for shells and stuff, somebody found the wallet, gives it to what's his name, and then this gets on film and people see it and all kinds of rumors and things get started. But it's very simple to explain. It's probably Austin's wallet that he lost whenever everything flew out of the car. His dog, everything flew out of the car. Who knows? Maybe there was even some bullet shells. We don't know all he had in the car, but everything went everywhere. And then the car hit the house and the girls. Can you imagine being those sisters? They don't know what's going on that day.
That's a fucked up day.
People hitting the porch, and then there's cops getting shot, and there's cars in the alley, and people are like, what is going on today? I mean, the president's getting murdered. From their standpoint, the Davis boys were correct in going, pack your shit. We're getting out of here. There's gang fights. There's near stabbings. All this stuff is going on. And I don't care who wants to minimize it. If you're these girls and these boys, you're like, get your stuff, Martha. We're getting out of Dallas. And they did. And they come and get them and drag them back to Dallas. It's so wild. This stuff, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Good instincts they had.
I'm not sure if there's any more slides you want to go through or anything. But
Yeah, I guess we'll touch on Grossi and Bowen, or both of them quickly.
Yep.
Or the same
John
one.
Caesar Grossi.
Yeah, the same one. John Caesar Grossi Jr. This looks like his World War II draft card. I've seen a few of those draft cards. We showed this. So on the left, we showed the library card on the right?
Yes.
With, of course, Oswald putting him as his reference.
So while you got that card up there, what's the address?
1916 Stevens Forest Drive.
Actually, Oswald's address on the card.
Oh, 602 Elsbeth.
And who was the manager? Do you remember?
Was that the lady on the bus?
No.
No.
The Elsbeth manager was.
Oh, what was his name?
Mullen. And his wife, him and his wife were the managers of that. And what's weird is, do you remember Frank Wright?
Yeah.
He was a witness to the Tippit shooting.
Right.
So Frank Wright was sitting in a chair by the door, and so the shooting happened, and he gets up out of his chair, opens the door, and steps out in the street, and sees what he says is Tippit laying in the street, and the guy leaning over him, and this is after the shots happened, of course, and the guy goes around the car, runs, and gets into another car that's parked behind Tippit's, but facing the wrong way on that side of the street, and takes off.
Right. The silver car.
An old 50s Plymouth 2-door coupe or something, right?
Yeah.
And that's what Frank Wright had to say, and nobody would give him the time of day, right? Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You know what you're talking about. And they would always, like Myers and things, they would point to his wife, because his wife called, and she says, within a minute or something. And so they try and discount what Frank did because of how long it took for her to make the phone call, or the phone call to get to the ambulance, all this kind of stuff. So they try and conflate the two and discount what Frank Wright said. But
Well, speaking of conflating the two, let's talk about Jack L. Bowen and John Grossi, who, correct me if I'm wrong, sir, are the same person.
yes,
Yes.
and that's his alias.
Yeah,
And
John
so
Grossi was wanted.
his name's Grossi, but when he's working at Jaggers Charles Stovall, he has this alias of Jack Bowen.
That's
It's a fake name.
extremely weird.
Yeah, because Grossi
Extremely
has
weird.
a rap sheet a mile long, literally. Like,
Yeah, well, we're gonna. That's the next slide, Rob. I was just gonna read this little thing here on the left. So on the FBI is seeking John Caesar Grossi,
Yes.
who is also known as Jack Bowen, who was described as a fugitive charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution for the crime of theft by false pretenses. On July 13, 1964, federal warrant was issued in Dallas, Texas for the above offenses. White American, born in Patterson, New Jersey, 1927.
hey, that's the home of Silk City hot sauce, everybody.
Oh, yeah. That's
Yeah.
true. Our sponsor, yes. Use our code Gunman for 20% off.
Yeah.
And by the way, Rob, I did send my Italian peppers I brought back from Italy to Mr. Silk City, Jeff, to grow them
Sweet.
for our own strain. Yeah.
Nice.
Look out for that. Grossi has traveled extensively throughout the United States, Canada, with occupations of commercial artist, cartoonist, advertising worker, salesman, blah, 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 blah.
Sounds like a confidence man to me, Joseph.
Well, what? This is what you were waiting for, Rob.
Yeah. God
Look
damn.
at this. Going back to 45, right? You got...
As soon as he's out of the military.
Yes, right. Think about, well, yeah, I mean, not even before World War II ended. But I think that, look, Shreveport. Trey, shout out Shreveport.
Yeah,
By the way, we have a question. I have a question for you from Trey, one of our biggest supporters, about the Gay 90s Club, which you referenced. Exactly 200 episodes, he pointed out to me. 169 was the last time you were on. Way too long. Then improper or impersonation, U.S. Navy impersonation section 76T, impersonation government official, Dyer Act. I don't know. Oh, listen, Dyer Act. I don't know what that is.
Gosh, I looked that up a long time ago. I don't remember either. But
yeah. Anyways, 49, 49, 49, 49, 52, 52, 53, 56, 59, 59, 59. And, wait, is it the same thing?
The Dyer Act refers to the National Motor Vehicle Theft Act.
yes, which these guys did a lot of. Him and Mantooth. That's why I was telling you about the stealing of the motorhome and going to camp in Oklahoma with Fleta and Little Larry and Big Larry. Big Larry is Mantooth's son, and very interesting. So, and these guys were operating from Portland to, I see, the East Coast. I mean, the whole U.S. They were stealing cars and doing all this stuff for years. Mantooth was famous for things he did in the military. I don't know if you see some of the articles about him that I gave you.
They're all coming up. I have them
Oh,
all.
it's just crazy.
I
And these guys, like I say, these guys were both married to Fleda, Mimi, and Dial Ryder's sister. And
Fleda Ryder, right?
yeah, and they actually lived right across the street from Homer and up Velma and them. They had a place there, and until they moved later on, and they got divorced, and then she married Mantooth. But Mantooth, I mean, it did crazy stuff. He was like in the airborne or whatever, and dropped in and had this dog save him from the Germans and crazy stuff. But then these guys, as soon as they got out, were just stealing cars, committing robberies, robbing post offices, and then telling the cops all about it. And that's, I mean, how do you have a rap sheet 10 miles long and are out of prison all the time, dropping the dime on everybody else?
Yeah, for sure. When did Grossi adopt the Bowen alias? Do you know? I know that's
so he got arrested, and that was about the time that he had gotten divorced, I think, from Fleda, and she had started, because that's why she got divorced, because I think he was using the Bowen thing, and he got put in prison, and that was pretty much it for her. And so then she hooks up with Mantooth.
okay.
So
in 1963, he was using Bowen.
Yes.
At the gun shop.
He was out of prison, and then he was using Bowen. But he had used it, prior to that. It was like part of his aliases. And
got it.
he had also, like I say, he'd used Mantooth because they had met in prison. Both these guys were in some prison farm in Oklahoma or someplace, and they got somehow met each other, and started doing Fleda, married Fleda, both of them. And so it was very, very interesting.
Since that, I guess FBI report came out that said like he's on the run, which I guess was in 1964.
Yeah,
they don't really catch up with him until 1970, right?
Yeah, it's so odd that you can go that long and hide from these guys. Yeah,
right. And we're gonna get to his 70s statements right now, actually.
Yeah,
and they caught up with him on April 10th, 70. Jack Leslie Brown, Jack Leslie Bowen, was asked if his true identity was not John Caesar Grossi. Advised that it was his true name, but his fingerprints, interesting here, I picked up on. Blacked out, redacted. Now,
weird.
Could that have been because they were maybe found on the rifle? I don't know. I'm spitballing here. I don't know, on the Carcano.
If he's, like I say, if he's some kind of informant and things like doing that kind of things for them,
that makes sense.
Things get blacked out.
Yeah.
There's stuff he's doing that are favors.
Other charges that might have gotten blacked out.
Yeah.
Right.
So they catch up with him. They go through all this New Mexico stuff that you could explain to us. I'm not going to read all this. It was
Look, all that blacked out. Isn't it weird?
Yeah. As still further background information, subject's former wife, Fleda Bowen Mantooth, Irving, Texas, states that subject is a very excellent artist and is possibly still engaged in this occupation. She stated that while married to the subject, she noted he was able to both gain and lose weight very rapidly, and his weight could vary from 150 to 200 pounds within a few months. Wow, I wish I had that skill.
That's right.
Then we go to these next two documents that are dated on the same day, and they're talking about stolen cars, same type of thing. They're the same person. I think we've gone over most of this. But so they eventually catch up with him in New Mexico in 1970. So like 6 years later, right? And which is crazy, like you mentioned. And then you have Department of Justice, same day, talking about the arrest. Roy Mantooth, who we're going to get to in a second, released as hitchhiker in car, now identified as accomplice of Grossi. Grossi and Mantooth abandoned in Phoenix a 1970 Oldsmobile rental car from Columbus, Georgia.
They were stealing cars and selling them back to the places they stole them from, like car dealers. One guy would steal the car, the other guy would sell it back to them. Crazy.
Yeah, or they'd rent a car and try to sell
And
it.
sell it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All kinds of
That's
weird.
wild.
They had tricks.
Right. So now let's get to this guy Mantooth, because actually this is the same thing that kind of says the same. Roy Lee Mantooth, who was also
Joe, would you ever take Ruby into a foxhole with you in the middle of World War II?
No, because she's scared of everything. She'd run out of the foxhole. Why did someone
Not
ask that?
Matthew. He'd take Ruby right in there.
Yeah,
Mantooth took his dog into the foxholes in World War II, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she saved his life a couple times.
Yeah. It barked and it told him that the Germans were coming and trying to get in.
Yeah, right.
And he became
Shells coming in, incoming.
Incoming 88s, right?
And you can see the general goes, "We'll let him keep the dog with him in the hospital, even when he's wounded or whatever."
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy stuff. You're like, what the heck? Yeah,
Why the hell did you let him have a dog on the battlefield? Like, what the hell, man?
Let that guy go. You're like, God, that's so wild.
And yes, Ed, I did name my dog Ruby.
That's great. Yes, I love it.
I wanted a JFK related name, and she's a girl. So, and wherever we adopted her, named her
What?
Cooper.
Not Fleeta?
Yeah. Oh, I could have done that. Or Velma, right?
But there's your war hero.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
who
this
steals
is him
cars
in the war, right? We've already gone over his extensive rap sheet, and so he's interviewed the same day as.
Or they're caught together, aren't they?
They're caught together.
Yeah. Well, he walks away from the car, and I think it was like at the gas station or something, and then they said the one guy ran away, and they tried to.
Yeah, he was saying he was just a hitchhiker.
Yeah, I'm just a hitchhiker.
Oh man, you can't make this stuff up.
You can't make it up, man.
And look at Mantooth's rap sheet.
Oh yeah, I mean, as soon as he gets out, he's robbing and stealing cars and breaking into post offices and you name it. I mean, it's just
I mean, this is even before the war too, which
probably. I mean, it's just crazy. These guys were war heroes or in the war, and then they just go crazy after they get out.
Right. Possession of beer for sale in dry territory, permitting unlicensed person to operate vehicle, burglary, larceny, car theft, auto theft, burglary, vagrant, suspension of pimp, I and V. What does that mean again? Forgery, burglary, theft. Burglary times 3.
Invasion, maybe home invasion.
Maybe, yeah. That's a good guess. Oof, this guy. They're 2 peas in a pod, huh? And
Yeah,
I think we got more here.
oh
let's
yeah,
see. This goes to 51. Yeah, so then we go 53. I mean, bro, post office burglary, post office burglary. I guess that's the same charge. Breaking into post office with intent to commit larceny. Another breaking into post office. Damn, these guys they have their niche, their niche.
You had a hustle.
Uh,
Grandma sending birthday money in the cards, around Christmas.
felony
Right.
theft. Yes. Yeah. No.
well,
yeah.
they were stealing. They were stealing stamps and postal money orders, and this was also happening in Dallas. And this ties in with the guy I told you about before, who had gotten the gun at the Shell service station in Irving. There was also an involvement there of a postal break-in, and some of these guys were tied to it, and they were doing the same things. We wonder where they get the ideas or who was behind some of this, but they were stealing postal money orders and forging them. And so these guys are forgers, artists. That's another term for faking things. He's able to forge and make things and IDs.
The money orders. Yeah.
Right. And so here he is at Jagger, Childs, Stovall. I mean, Grossi, at least. They're both forgers, but here you have him there. And then all this stuff about Oswald gets turned over to the FBI, and things start showing up, IDs. And, oh, yeah, there's all this stuff that he left. I mean, you just got to wonder, you're like, these guys helping, set him up, after the fall, or what's going on? They're the FBI's go-to guys, because they've got records and they'll do anything to help out and do a favor. And here they're right there. I mean, right there with Dial, right there with his sister, right there with Oswald. I mean, very, very, we're not even talking 1 degree separation here with the Kevin Bacon 8 degrees, whatever it's. They're right there. I mean, it doesn't get me. This stuff is hot.
Right. And I think this is the last one I have, and this was the article
These are great.
You were referring to later, and this.
Yeah, I found these. I was like, "Who is this guy? This is great."
This is going to be really hard for me to read.
But basically, what it says, Joe, is a prisoner free for 75 days vows that he won't go back to prison, and he's like, "They ain't never gonna take me back to prison." See what I'll do? I'll slash my wrist. They won't take me alive.
Unbelievable. I mean,
yeah,
you can't make this stuff up.
Yeah. In the middle, you have the general won't separate the wounded Texan and dog, which I respect.
That dog's here.
Yeah, the Pomeranian, a little hairy bastard.
A Pomeranian spits. In the Battle of St. Lo, which is paratrooper, right? Normandy.
Yeah. Big battle, big war hero, winning the battle. Yeah, the dog
jumped out with the dog strapped to his chest.
Wow, and he was a 28-year-old. That's old for
airborne.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He's a big guy though. You can look at him. He's he was quite fit.
Yeah, he talks about the flea bite he takes from shrapnel, and I wouldn't take $1 million, which is like 10 million then, for a flea bite, said Mammoth. Mantooth. I'm sorry.
It's weird. All the opportunity these guys could have with all their war hero stuff and all this, that they're just criminals. They just turn, you
gotta wonder how much possible PTSD factored into that too. Yes. Or I guess some of it was before, so that might not be a valid argument. Then you have his obit on the right.
Yes.
And what's the date of this?
Another time, Flea Bite smelled a bunch of Jerry's creeping up on us, and his training or his warning enabled us to get in first with hand grenades and blow them up.
Yeah. So
Well, he
love it.
married Fleda Ryder on December 7th, 63. That's
Yeah.
like 3 weeks after 2.5 weeks after the assassination. He's getting married. Interesting.
In Albany, New York. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
is Albany in Texas?
It could be in Albany in Texas, but I think it's New York.
Very interesting.
And yeah, it's these guys, man, running this gun shop, dealing with all the DPD cops and this.
There is an Albany in Texas, by the way.
Okay, it could have been, yeah.
Probably.
It's just all very interesting, isn't it?
It's
near Abilene.
Abilene.
It's fascinating.
It's right near Dallas, actually. It's right outside of Dallas.
Okay.
Hmm.
Okay, that makes, yeah.
But I wanted to get back. I'll tell you one thing about Frank Wright. Remember Frank Wright? And he had witnessed everything, and they didn't give him the time of day. And he moved. He was right there on 10th Street, just a few doors down on the north side. And he had witnessed all this stuff happen, gave a description of the car, the guy in the long coat that ran away and got into the car and drove off, and all this stuff. And on that library card is the address 602, 604, whatever it is, Elsbeth. The manager there was Mr. and Mrs. Tobias, Malon Tobias. Well, in 1964, just, like a few months after this happened, Frank moves out. A lot of people did. They got the hell out of the neighborhood, except for Jimmy Burt. He moves upstairs. Jimmy Burt moves upstairs into the apartment that was above the Davis sisters, right? He moves up there from across the street as father-in-law's. Moves up there. Kind of weird. And but Frank moves out, and in moves the Tobiases into Frank's place. You're like, hey, that's kind of a weird move to move from Elsbeth managing the apartment to now living in the apartment that was Frank's. Very strange. Very strange. And that's thanks to Tony Crome and John Manning, who figured out that little detail of Mr. Tobias's movements and Mrs. Tobias.
Yeah, a lot of these Dallas people are just so intertwined with each other and these crazy connections.
Just so much. That's what they were telling me when I was talking to these gals. They kept saying these people are all interconnected in weird ways. She goes, you couldn't trust the police. And I was like, well, could you trust Tippett? She goes, yeah, you could probably trust Tippett, but that's about as far as it went. Any of the higher ups. That's why Jack Ruby was bringing envelopes full of cash, and passing them out like candy, at headquarters downtown, because these guys were all on the take. They couldn't really be trusted, and that's what the Davis sisters and the boys said. Let's get the hell out of here. We can't depend on the cops to save us from these people, the gangs and the stuff. So that's why they left. They said this all relates to Jack and these gangs, and that was what was going on there. And
him paying the cops off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Blackmailing him with his women. And
exactly.
Yeah, we got a couple comments here, Ed. We got James. So what's the point of this tangled web? Well, I always looked at the Tippett shooting as just a clusterfuck of witnesses, for lack of a better term,
yes,
who seemingly all saw something different,
right?
And nothing lines up, and it's all crazy. And then when you hear about the the Markham boys and the 10th Street Gang and Dago and all these other bad seeds that are all around there.
Yep.
And all these other people now that we hear are all interconnected as well, and with, you know, possibly connected to Jack Ruby.
Correct.
You know, that's why we're looking at it. It's all interesting information. I mean, it's crazy. It's mind blowing to me, you know, to learn all this. I'm a geek for all this shit. I love it.
Right. Yeah, that is the ultimate connection. Everything that leads back to Jack Ruby and to the people around Jack and Irving and the, you know, even like the furniture store lady and the setup there at the Irving Sports Shop, you know, them having him supposedly Oswald going into the furniture store and the lady going, well, I sent him up to the gunsmith there. And it's like, well, was he looking for something for his gun? Well, no, but you know, that's where I sent him. And all these people, when you dig into their backgrounds and what they were doing and stuff, they have intimate connections with each other that would lead you to believe that they're doing all each other a favor by pointing the finger at Oswald and implicating Oswald. So, and then it all boils back down to Jack Ruby, who even said himself, I wanted to go to California, but I was instructed to go to Dallas. I forget who he told that, but that's a quote from him.
And who, by the way, lived a couple blocks over from all this on Ewing Street.
Right. Who was running these gangs, so, you know, so he would be right in the middle. And then, you know, like we did at Jack's, like Tony and John Manning, they would go into all the movements of all these people and the places they stayed, where Jack moved in. So Jack, he lived at that apartment building, right? And who was his neighbors? Dallas cops lived right next door. And then, you know, they move and they go to this other place that's related. And then the strippers move in. And it's just this, it's such a little web of things going on there around Jack Ruby. It's just, it's very interesting. I mean, it takes hours to go into in each one and their movements and how they, you know, how they relate to the case, but it's just amazing. Yeah. I can't give enough thanks to the guys at Jack's. You know, it's just, we get together and we just boil everything down. We're, you know, everything that we could find out about these people, we put out there, and then you start comparing notes and you're like, dude, this is crazy. Yeah. So.
Well, that's what I love about you guys. You put out interesting things to dig into, you know, from this to the rooming house to, you know, where's your Ryder and all that stuff, man. And Prayer Man, of course, and you guys killing it over there. And I appreciate you, Ed, coming on here.
Yep.
Thank
you.
What's that?
Senator. Fan character with eyes wide open, blushing.
Thank you.
I think he or she definitely enjoys this show, this episode for sure.
And Ed, did you mention you have a YouTube channel?
No, I really don't. You know, I just put everything on Jack's pretty much, and wherever I'm at, either at ROKC. But I do have the petition, and that's the petition that's going to get the films from November 22nd that were taken by Wegman and Darnell, that NBC has suppressed. So I've been working on this for a long time.
This is your letter to Luna.
Many years, yep. So this is Luna's committee, and so I got the letter, and that took me, you know, months to get them to turn the letter over to me, which was requesting the films and the, you know, everything they have at NBC that they're suppressing and holding, and which Caesar, the guy in charge there, says that they lost. So they don't know where they are, but I know for a fact that they have those films, because they told me they had them and they wouldn't let me scan them because they were so important to them. They had to keep them safe. So if you're so important and you're keeping them safe, how the hell do you lose them? It's this, they're full of it, And so if you go to openpetition.org, that's where I've already collected over 1,000 signatures. So
Mine is one of them.
yes, Joe signed it. I saw that. So openpetition.org, and the petition is draft a more precise request to NBC for the films requested in April of 2025. And that was the letter that you just put up that Anna Luna sent to NBC. But in the letter that she sent, it leaves wiggle room, because when you say things like, I'm requesting access. Well, no, you want the originals. You want the original film sent to you, not access. That could be a copy. That could be something that could mean something completely different. So we're asking for
subpoena power from Comer, right?
Right. So the subpoena power would come later. So what we're hoping is that they make a more precise request, that is better language used to say specifically, we want the original films from November 22nd, which they have. I mean, I'm the guy who owns Maui Film. I'm the guy who licensed the films. I'm the guy that they told that, I'm sorry, the powers that be won't allow access to them because, here we've got a duplicate, made in 1970, whatever, on 3/4 inch tape that we use, for licensing purposes. That's good enough for you. I'm like, well, if it's good enough for you, you keep the 3/4 inch tape. We'll take the originals then. If you don't need them, you're not doing it. You won't scan them. If they're so important, why won't you do a 4K scan and save them forever, right? That'd be the smart business thing to do. If you're in charge of NBC Universal News Group and your name's Caesar, you'd think, man, I'm the king. Well, you would scan those films and keep them for prosperity, or use them for business purposes. Have a high resolution scan so people would pay more money. But no, they don't do that. And there's got to be a reason. Like I say, whenever you get down to it, the things that they've suppressed with his alibi, the Hosty and the Fritz notes and everything that trickles out that shows that what Oswald was saying was, hey, I was on the first floor. Hey, I stepped outside. Hey, I was probably caught on camera, huh? Well, if you're caught on camera, well, game over for him being up on the 6th floor or anywhere in the second floor lunchroom or any of this garbage that they made up later. So that would pretty much, end their game. So we want to end the games, and let's just get the films. Let's get them scanned. Let's get them to NARA where they should be because of the JFK Act and everything that you've had some of these guys on here like saying they're playing games down there.
They
with,
are.
with the files and the things that are going on. So this is all part of that. This is something I've been working on a long time. So if you go to openpetition.org, I'm leaving the petition open till November 23rd. So everybody can just go there, sign the petition, and then I'm going to send that to Anna Luna's office. And then if that doesn't work out, then we're going to ask for a subpoena from Comer. So we're getting to that point that MC needs to be subpoenaed for the films because they're not cocking them up. And this is evidence in a murder. Okay, this isn't just some assassination thing. People got murdered.
It could be exculpatory evidence.
Yeah, this is exculpatory evidence in a murder where Lee never had a trial, never had a jury, never had a judge sentence him, never had any of this thing, and they continually say he's the guilty man, which is that's garbage. He's innocent, always will be in the eyes of the law. Until you're convicted and the judge sentences you, you're innocent. I mean, Jack Ruby is actually innocent, right? Because he died before, the second trial could happen. But he was convicted. The jury did come back with a verdict. He did get sentenced by the judge, right? It went to appeal. So there's your real murderer. That's a real murderer right there. And there's weird stuff about that too. I mean, I should save some of this for later, but there's weird stuff that happened in the basement. Who was there? Who are friends of Jack's?
There's not one part of this case that isn't weird.
It goes on and on and on.
We throw up our hands every week,
every week. Yeah, I blow your mind every day for a week at least on just what happened in the basement. Who was there? What was going on? Yeah, it's crazy. I will leave you with this. If you take a look at just take a look at the photo, the famous image of Ruby shooting Oswald, and just take a look at Jim Lavelle's jacket and tell me what's under that jacket. Tell me what you think. Is there something under his jacket? What would you put under your jacket if you knew somebody was going to get shot and you're going to be right there holding the guy?
A vest.
Put under your jacket. I'd put a bulletproof vest. I'd put a vest under mine. I'd get a brand new suit that was a little bit big and get a bulletproof vest. They weren't exactly Kevlar back then, but they're called,
Right.
they were made out of different titanium and stuff, and they had little pockets in them. And that's what they used for airmen to save airmen's lives during World War II. Was they came up with these vests.
Better than nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you know something's going to happen and you know this guy's going to probably get shot, I'd put on a vest under my brand new suit.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Thanks so much, brother. You killed it as usual.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cannot wait 200 more episodes to have you back on. So next time you got something going on, shoot me an email and let us know, and we'll get you right on the show and talk about it. And hang out with us for 1 second. We got Dean Andrews always comes in and dances us out of here.
All right, brother. And Ruby.
Yeah. Grab the damn dog, Joe.
There you go.
Dino, where you at? All right. Oh, I want to thank Ed Ledoux again for coming on the show. No, I did. I know Joe did. And I love the Lee shirt. Love it.
Oh,
Yeah. Do you think she'd make it in a foxhole, Ed?
only with Mantooth.
Yeah. You ain't no Mantooth, Joe.
The greatest crimes are committed in the name of justice. The quotation is
All right, folks.
It could be used far
Get back with
more
us next
against
Friday where me and Joe will be
suspicious
doing a
cases
show with our own research that we've been working on for a couple months now about something that happened around a certain date in early 1963, we'll say. I don't want to give up the goat yet. Make sure you tune in for that. Thanks, Ed. Thank you, people. We'll
Thank
see
you, Rob. Thank you, Joe.